Light's fading fast. What do you say we take a rip with the Geissele 6.5 MRGG, 650 yards here. Full size IPSC. What an absolute ripper. Like the thumbnail states, SOCOM's new sniper rifle is insane. And we're gonna take a deep dive into what this rifle is and how it performs in this video. If you like the sounds of it, stick around. Now you might be asking yourself, what is this rifle? It's actually fairly new to the market, and it's gonna be Geissele's large frame AR. Now in particular, this is gonna be a 6.5 Creedmoor. This is the mrgg-S contract winner, so mid-range gas gun sniper variant. Now the point of this rifle, from what I understand, is to be a sub 10-pound rifle capable of 1 MOA through 5,000 plus rounds. So pretty stringent requirements. And Geissele, I believe in 2024, was awarded the contract for this exact rifle. Now the really cool thing about this rifle is, sure, this is SOCOM's new sniper rifle, but you're also able to buy one of these for yourself. Now the price on this is casually $6,500. So the other night, I'm surfing the internet. I didn't realize these were actually available and in stock. I ran across these on the Optic website as in stock, saw the price tag of $6,500 and asked myself, what the heck does this thing do to justify a $6,500 price tag? That is the absolute upper end of pricing for ARs. Even these large frame ARs, we're used to brands selling for $5,000 plus. So when I saw that price tag, I'm thinking to myself, man, this thing must be magical in order to command that price. So naturally, I was curious. I knew these were out there. I knew Geissele had won the contract, and I'd been wanting one since I saw that award in 2024. So in the name of content creation, I actually reached out to Geissele and asked them, hey, do you guys have any kind of industry program? I'd like to feature your new rifle in content, run some rounds through it, share with my viewers. And Geissele actually said, hey, you know, appreciate you reaching out, but at this time, we're busy filling orders. We don't have any T&E rifles. Unfortunately, we're not gonna be able to help you out. So totally understand that and respect that. From there, I transitioned over to Optic. I've been a longtime customer of Optic. They had these in stock, and I was able to work out the purchase of this rifle through Optic. Spent my full money. From what I understand, there was no discount on this rifle. They also are trying to fill orders. This thing is in very, very high demand. So because I wanted to try this for myself and feature it here on the channel, I went ahead and paid all $6,500 for this rifle. And in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, there's no way this rifle truly delivers on that kind of value. So when I think of $6,500, I'm thinking of Knight's Armament. We see those, they sell well over that. They have a long history of large frame gas guns, and they're very proven in my opinion. So with this coming to market from Geissele, relatively unknown in the large frame AR space, at a price point that is above where a comparable Knight's Armament would be, I had to find out for myself. So what we're gonna do in this video is share my experience with the Geissele MRGG and 6.5 Creedmoor with you. So my plan for this video is to move down to the 100-yard line and run a handful of rounds at 100 yards to show you the accuracy out of this rifle. I have something like 6 different loads that we're gonna shoot at 100 yards to measure accuracy. Then we're gonna push out and engage steel. So prior to tonight, I've put about 40 rounds through this rifle, getting zeroed, function testing, dialing in my hand load, etc. Then in tonight's video, this is what you're gonna see my first time at long range. So 100-yard line, then we'll move out and engage steel and wrap up here at the end of the video with my thoughts around this rifle and how it delivers on that $6,500 price point. So if you like the sounds of it, let's get into it. Now really quick, MRGG, mid-range gas gun, S for sniper variant. In my mind, that's able to engage a man-sized target to 12, say 1,400 yards. So I'm gonna do that in this video. Now these rifles, I understand, are fairly new. They're likely just showing up there with the US military guys that are gonna be using these. So I don't know how much feedback is actually out there. I looked around online. I didn't see a whole lot about this rifle. If those of you in the comments have commentary to add, I'd love to hear more about maybe this program or what you're hearing where these are being fielded. Now, how do I have this rifle set up? What is the gear I'm running? So the rifle itself is gonna be a factory Geissele MRGG 20-inch 6.5 Creedmoor. Now there's a couple of things that make this rifle unique. Number one, through the MRGG program, I understand it's supposed to have a user changeable barrel. So this has a rail that you can just pop the 2 screws out, slide the rail off, and then it has a barrel nut underneath. Understand you're supposed to be able to change that barrel. So that is pretty cool. But then also one of the things Geissele promotes about this rifle is the phased array gas system. I have no clue what that actually is. I read that and I figured that was just a marketing term for the same old, same old. Phased array, okay, cool, sounds neat. You're also going to find this rifle is very much completely ambidextrous, so it's going to have a bolt release on the right hand side, mag release, as well as ambidextrous controls on the left hand side. So you would kind of expect that out of a modern AR. Something very unique about this rifle, especially given the sniper variant name, is going to be it runs a Cold Hammer Forge chrome line barrel. Now remember the accuracy requirement of 1 MOA, typically you don't think of chrome line barrels as being super accurate. So that was another thing I decided I wanted to try out about this rifle. The other unique thing I found about this rifle is in the bolt carrier group, there's some kind of brass weight. So the bolt carrier group is quite heavy. Geissele also pairs that with some kind of braided spring in the extension here. Supposed to make it very smooth to shoot. You know, and then lastly, the other thing I noticed about this rifle, just taking it out of the box, I will tell you what, it delivers on the fit and finish. This thing is absolute top-notch in fit and finish. Beautiful, it appears the anodizing all matches. The lockup between the receivers, that is, man, awesome. Extremely tight lockup. There's actually a tension, a little spring and bushing inside of the lower receiver to help tension the upper and lower. Kind of a pain because it's so tight you can't just push this pin out. I have to use a punch to drive it out. But I love how tight the receiver lockup is in this. So initial impressions when I took it out of the hard case that it ships in is, man, fit and finish is awesome. Bolt carrier group has a very slick coating on it. So out of the box, initial impressions were very good. Optics on this rifle are going to be the Element Nexus 4 to 25 mil rifle scope. So these Element Nexus, they come in about $2,000. They're in a 30 millimeter tube, but I like them for the reticle. It's nice glass for the price point. And the turrets you can actually zero with no tools. So you just unscrew the cap there, twist it around, boom, tighten it back down. So very quick and easy to get zeroed up. That's going to be mounted in a Badger Ordnance Condition 1 mount where I'm holding my Maztech 15K weapon mounted laser rangefinder. And the more I use this Maztech, the more I love this thing. So extremely fast readings for distance. The data seems to be spot on once I true the bullet out of this thing. I actually recently ran this laser in the Kinetic Comps match, and it was that experience that really sold me on how solid this weapon mounted laser rangefinder is. I do quickly want to give a shout out to Scopemate. So Scopemate has apparently got a camera that actually works for through the scope footage. So really happy with the Scopemate. You've seen me have trouble previously with other brands, but now that we're running the Scopemate, it does seem to be quite reliable. And it does give me the full field of view through the scope, so I really like that. If you're in the market for scope cameras, I get this question a lot. Right now, I am happy with the Scopemate and would buy this over any of the other brands that I've used previously on the channel. Finally, suppressor on this rifle. Now the Geissele, this MRGG is going to ship with a Huxwork flash wider. So you're able to put a Huxworks can on this thing, or in this case, I have my Fletcher Rifleworks Texas Flood suppressor that had a Huxworks hub adapter in it. So I was able to put this Texas Flood on this rifle, and I'm really happy with this Texas Flood. So Fletcher Rifleworks, maybe a newer suppressor in the centerfire game, but this thing is really awesome. This is a titanium suppressor, and it has replaceable end caps on it. So right now I have the flow-through end cap on it, very low back pressure. And the reason I like this can is the lightweight, the size, and the flow-through or low back pressure. So if you find yourself interested in this Fletcher Rifleworks Texas Flood, make sure when you go over to their cart, you use my code MULLETS, and that's actually going to save yourself 10% off of everything in your cart. So you'll be able to see quite a bit of footage through this can. I have a number of rounds through it now. It seems to be holding up quite well. I like the titanium can. It's light, it does heat up fast, it cools down fast. Maybe the only negative I've noticed on this can so far is occasionally there is quite a bit of flash that goes out the front of this thing, and you'll probably see some of that in the video. But it seems to sound nice. It is low back pressure, and man, the size and weight of this are prime. Now, while we're on the topic of suppressors, if you find yourself in the market for a suppressor, maybe your first one, make sure you check out Silencershop. So I've been using Silencershop for a long time. I'm really excited. They've come on board to help sponsor me and support my channel. So they have what they call their single shot trust, where you put each of your NFA items on its own individual trust. You're able to save your profile. So once you go to their kiosk, put in your fingerprint, save all your information, that's in your profile. and it makes buying a suppressor super, super easy. There's a lot going on right now in the NFA world with tax stamps and lawsuits, etc. So if you do find yourself in the market, A, don't wait. I don't believe we need to be waiting for these. If you find something that you want and it's in stock, go ahead and buy it now. And then make sure you're using Silencershop to help you with that process. The final piece is going to be the ammo that we run in this video. So at the 100-yard line, we're going to fire a couple of different types of ammo. But for long range, we're going to be firing my hand load with the Sierra 144 SMK. So Sierra's been a long-time supporter of my channel right now, and I tell you what, I'm really happy with the performance of their bullets. In particular, this 144 SMK. I found it to shoot extremely well in multiple different 6.5 rifles. Load it to mag length, get the velocity where it should be for your barrel length, and it's going to shoot. So shout out to Sierra. If you're in the market for a bullet that's easy to load, it's going to perform well at distance, make sure you're checking out Sierra for all of your long range needs. Again, in this video, the 144 SMK. Before we go further, if you enjoy this kind of content, I got to ask for your help. It's super simple. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel. If you are subscribed, thank you. If you're not, do me a solid and go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And then finally, I tell you what, this video was extremely expensive, $6,500. If you do find yourself very pleased with this content and you want to help out, do me a solid and hit that super thanks. Send over a little bit of cash, it definitely helps out, but if not, otherwise, free is subscribe, liking, and commenting. With that, let's get into it. Here we go, 100-yard accuracy results with the Geissele MRGG. Now what I have going on here, 41 rounds fired from 6 different loads to give us an idea of what the accuracy is going to be out of this rifle. So first thing out of the gate, bottom right dot, I fired a cold bore of the 144 SMK, and you can see it landed a bit low. I then immediately followed up with 10 rounds here on the bottom left dot. And you can see this group is very centered up, and it measures 1.12 MOA. So a little bit over 1 MOA for a 10-round group, I feel is very respectable for a gas gun. I really only had 1 round that popped high out of the group. Otherwise, 9 of them are very, very tight. So really happy with that accuracy. I do want to note, if you look at where the cold bore landed, sure it's low from the dot, but it's very much at the bottom end of the 10-round group. So it's not like the cold bore really flew anywhere crazy. It just landed bottom edge of the 10-round group. So it does seem like cold bore performance is within the group, which is a win. Average velocity on the 10 rounds, 25.66. Extreme spread of 48 and an SD of 14. So a little bit of a spread there. I'd like to dial that in for long range, but you'll see in the video, this is going to shoot just fine. This is the load that we're going to push out on steel. I then moved up and fired 5 rounds with a 140 grain Hornady ELDM on the upper left dot. You can see those landed here. 1.1 MOA. Average speed is quite low at 2480. Extreme spread of 38 and an SD of 13.3. So decent spread there in the velocity, but I was surprised how slow this bullet was from a factory load. We transitioned over and fired the Lapua 140, which landed here just to the right of the dot. You can see those 5 rounds landed in 1.04 MOA. So right at 1 MOA. Very nice. Very fast though. Average speed of 26.55 with an extreme spread of 68 and an SD of 21.6. That's a lot of spread for shooting long range. So I didn't push this one out to distance. I would be curious to see how this performs though when you get to 1,000 yards plus. We transitioned up to a more cost-friendly load, which is going to be the Winchester. I believe it's called the USA Ready. It's a 140 jacketed hollow point, I believe. And you can see those 5 rounds landed just a little bit high, measuring 1.4 MOA. So they did open up a bit. The 5th round popped low. Average speed of 26.35, but then a spread of 10.3 and an SD of 3.7. So while accuracy opened up a smidge, the velocity consistency was really good from that ammo. I transitioned over to the bottom left dot and fired 5 rounds of the Ally Munitions 135 A-tip load. So Ally's been a long-time supporter of the channel. They make great ammo. This was loaded in Lapua brass. 1.2 MOA for the 135, an average speed of 27.22, extreme spread of 29.3 with an SD of 11.1. So that's pretty decent spread. This likely would be a solid long-range performer with that A-tip bullet. I bumped up though and fired the tightest group of the day. Now remember, I'm not letting anything cool, so as I fire, the rifle's getting hotter. So these last 2 are with a very warm rifle. Upper left is going to be the Lapua 130 grain factory load. 0.6 MOA, really impressive. Average speed of 27.67, spread of 24 with an SD of 7.9. So this is a load I want to explore a little bit further. Very accurate, very solid velocity with a high BC bullet. I bet it performed well out to distance. And then to wrap things up, I was just curious, is there any kind of zero shift with the heat? I went back to the 144 SMK load. This is my hand load and fired these 5 rounds here, which went into a great group at 0.74 MOA. 2578 feet per second, so a little bit faster. Spread of 31 with an SD of 11. Again, this is the exact load that we're going to push out to distance. So you got to let me know in the comments down below, do you believe there's any kind of shift between the original 10 round group and these 5? To me, maybe a smidge, but nothing crazy. And even with a warm barrel, the accuracy seemed to be there. Now let's go shoot steel at distance. So this is supposed to be a very long range semi-automatic sniper system. So why don't you say we send our first rounds on steel over 1,000 yards. So 100-yard performance, I was happy with that. Zero looked good. Now I've got the 144 SMKs loaded up. We've trued up the Maztech. Now these are going to be the first rounds I fire out of the MRGG at distance. I have trued the G7 on this load out of the SR25, so I'm going to shoot that same G7 BC of like a .285 with the velocity of 2580. We'll look down range, point at our target there, and range it. So that's 1,150 yards, is calling for up 12.4, which I'll dial on. And I put in like a 4-mile-an-hour wind from the 230. Just a slight, ooh, I need to raise my bipod. Just a slight right to left. And with that, you can see light is fading pretty fast. I'm going to back out on the zoom. In the parallax. And here we go. So the Maztech is calling for 0.6 right. So let's just hold that on the full side and see what happens. What do you think? First round impact? Oh, dude, that's sick. Yep. Wow. That recoil is amazing. Both off the left edge. Let's try the 2/3. Come up a 1/10. Cut it back to 0.6. And back to the full size. Impact. Now that is sick. Let's load up some more. So that recoil impulse is just impressively light. Why don't you say we try some, maybe some double taps, huh? All right, let me just send one here at 0.6 right. Okay, here we go. Off the left edge. Right edge. That is so cool, man. This thing is a soft shooter. So she hammers out at 1150. Why don't we move up a little bit closer off of a practical type position here on the tripod. So we'll just point out here at the target. So it's got ARCA built into the forearm, which is super handy. So let me just point at it here. 854 yards, calls for 7.4 elevation. We'll dial that on. Calls for right, 0.4. Okay, so I got the release with my right finger that time. That was nice. So 0.4 right on the full size. Dude, that recoil. All right, let's try the 2/3. That might have been an edge hit. Let me come up 2/10. Those feel low. Pack. Pack. Ah, off the left edge. Well, as you can see off of a tripod, man, hammers 2/3 IPSC, no problem. I think we got time for one more position here before it gets dark out. So let's move up to these rocks. I love shooting off of these very natural type terrain. Let's point at our targets out there. We'll range them. It's getting pretty dark. 650 yards is calling for 4.8 mils of elevation and right 0.3. Okay, so 4.8, I'll just hold it. Right 0.3, let's go on the 2/3. Okay, just hold straight up. Pack. Dude, crazy. That is nuts. That's awesome, 650 yards. The recoil on this is just amazing. Well, there it is, a first night out at distance with the new Geissele 6.5 MRGG-S. I cannot wait to hear in the comments down below what you thought about the performance of this rifle. How did the performance stack up versus the value that you would expect out of the $6,500 price point? Let's chat about it down below. Now let me run through a summary of my experience. I tell you what, I came into this video very skeptical of a $6,500 AR and how it performed. Would I actually be impressed? And I can tell you, after firing this out to distance, yes, I'm very impressed with this rifle. Do I think it's worth $6,500? We'll talk about that at the end. But as far as performance goes, at the 100-yard line, you saw me fire roughly 40 rounds. A 10-round group with the 144 SMK went into 1.1 MOA, and then a handful of other 5-round groups. When you look at all those rounds fired, they're going to average out to 1.01 MOA. Sure, maybe the shooter, maybe I could have done a little bit better, but ultimately I am very impressed with that. Keep in mind at the 100-yard line, I didn't slow down to let anything cool. So once I started, I fired, loaded mags, and fired. So by the time I got up to those last two groups, the 130 Lapua and the 144 SMK where I revisited it, the barrel was warm, the suppressor was warm. Those were fired as a warm rifle. Those were two of the tightest groups that I fired. So overall, my initial accuracy, 1.01 MOA, I think is solid. Now the manual states when I get to 200 rounds, I should expect my accuracy to be as tight as it's gonna get. Right now I'm at about 140 rounds, maybe 150 rounds to this rifle. So I'm expecting maybe in a couple more rounds to revisit accuracy and see what it looks like. But ultimately, I'm pretty impressed with what I saw. Then on steel, oh my, that was wild. Moved out to 1,150 yards, ranged it with the Maztech. Now I'd already put the data in the Maztech for this bullet. I've already trued this bullet in the Knight's SR25. We got a first round impact at 1,150 yards. And then we followed it up with multiple more impacts. Right out of the gate, I was able to double tap that target, rapidly send 2 rounds and connect. The recoil impulse on this rifle is impressive. This is by far the softest shooting 6.5 Creedmoor large frame AR I've fired. So the phased array gas system, what they're doing in the buffer with the spring, it must work. We moved up to 850 yards off of the tripod. You saw how smooth this thing was off the tripod. Once I got my elevation corrected, I had to come up 2/10. I was able to hammer the 2/3 IPSC off of the tripod at 850 yards. So the accuracy was there. What you saw through the camera in the scope is the rifle barely moved. We moved up to the final position at 650 yards and just absolutely hammered. This is the same spot you saw in the intro where we rapid fired on the full size IPSC, hammered it with something like 8 rounds, didn't miss. Later in the video, I was able to connect on that 2/3 IPSC multiple times at something like 4.9 mils of elevation. Again, very little movement out of this rifle. So the number one thing that I noticed out of this rifle is how smooth and how soft shooting it is. So the shooting experience on this rifle is really, really good. The accuracy, I'm very happy with it. I think in time maybe it'll improve a bit, and even if it doesn't, if it averages 1 MOA, I don't care. I'm very happy with that. That's going to be a solid performer for the shooting that I do. So overall, Accuracy, solid. Shooting experience, recoil, very solid. Fit and finish, very, very good. I'm very impressed with the fit and finish of this rifle. Ultimately, we'll see how it holds up in time. Will it actually hold that level of accuracy through 5,000 rounds like the contract calls for? We'll see. I plan to shoot this rifle a lot. So far, I'm really impressed with it. Now, what are my thoughts about this rifle and the $6,500 price point? Well, first off, $6,500 is pretty nuts for a large frame AR. Do I think the rifle delivers on the value that it requires? Well, I think it depends on what you're in the market for. If you have the ability to go out and spend $6,500 without thinking about it, without being concerned, then yes, this is a very nice rifle for the price. And in my opinion, the price really isn't that uncalled for what it is. It's a contract winning rifle, it shoots well, it's very accurate, and a company like Geissele has a great reputation, so I understand they would stand behind the product if anything were to happen. Now, if $6,500 is going to put you in a tight spot, this rifle is probably not worth it. Yes, this is a great rifle, but in no way would I go out and spend $6,500 on this rifle. It was going to put me into financial trouble. With that in mind, there are many other large frame 6.5 ARs on the market for significantly less cost that you could invest in and have a very similar shooting experience. So for me, that's the main thing. Yes, this is a very, very nice rifle. Yes, this thing seems to be performing very, very well. If you have the funds for it, yeah, I think it could make sense. But if not, don't do it. You know, this thing is really cool, but don't go into any kind of financial stress to purchase a rifle like this. You know, the other thing, you look at other markets or other rifles on the market for the similar price point. The Knights Armament SR25 is basically the exact same cost. You gotta let me know, do you wanna see me compare these rifles side by side and give you a side-by-side comparison? I guess I'd like to hear it in the comments down below. So overall, I'm very impressed with this rifle. What are the negatives that I would speak to? Well, certainly the cost, very, very high cost rifle. And around cost, not only is it the initial outlay of cash, but what's the resale value gonna do? So a lot of times when I'm buying gear, I think about the secondary market. I buy and sell all the time. Something like a Knights Armament is proven to hold its value and or increase in value. It's too early to tell what's going to happen with this MRGG. So it is very possible that if this thing holds value, has solid resale, then great. It's a decent investment. But if this thing tanks in value, that's going to be a problem, and only time will tell that. So that's one area of concern around this rifle. The next would be how tight the receivers are. You can't just pop this pin out. It is so tight. So I like that for accuracy, but it is kind of annoying. If you just want to pop your receivers apart, you can't really do it without a tool. And maybe that'll break in time, but we'll see. And then the final piece that I've noticed is how tight this right-hand bolt release is. So it's extremely tight. It has broken in a little bit, but trying to press this with my right finger, I mean, there's quite a bit of force. But when I initially got this rifle, there was no way to do it with my right-hand finger. I had to reach around with my thumb and push it in. So I like a right-hand bolt release. I think it's a must on a modern AR, but you also have to be able to actually push the button down. You know, you can see how hard there we go. So it is breaking down a bit, but those are kind of the negatives that I've thought of on this rifle. With that, we'll go ahead and wrap up. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoy this content, thanks for watching. Help me grow this channel. Like this video, commenting, and subscribing are the best ways to do it. And if you feel so inclined to help out financially, use the super thanks button down below. Thanks for watching.